Delicious jerk chicken wings that are simple. Let's make them. Start first with putting the chicken in a large bowl and sprinkling a generous amount of salt. Then go ahead and squeeze some lime juice on it. I squeezed about 2 to 3 limes. Once I felt there was a good amount of lime juice on the chicken, I went ahead and mixed everything around and then let it sit for a little while. I'm doing this basically to clean the chicken. I know it's controversial now whether you should clean your chicken or not, but this is how I learned to do it with making Caribbean dishes. So this is what I do, and this is the way I'm showing it. While the chicken's sitting, I go ahead and prepare my baking pan. I choose to line a rack with aluminum foil just because it makes cleanup easier. I go ahead and poke holes in it because I still want the juices to vent to the bottom. I found it's best to cook the chicken on a rack when I'm making wings because I don't necessarily want them sitting in their juices. Then I go back to my chicken and I rinse it thoroughly with water. I make sure to drain off any of the excess water because I don't want any still in the bowl. I even go ahead and pat it dry with some paper towels just because I really don't want any excess water on the chicken. Then I move on to my seasonings. I start first with paprika, ground thyme, garlic powder, and then onion powder. I go ahead and dump everything into the chicken and start to really mix it around to start the seasoning process. Next, I add some Caribbean green seasoning. This is basically a paste that's made up of different herbs, spices, garlic, and peppers that you can basically get in a bottle from any cultural grocery store. I've found that it's really essential to ensure that you develop a very deep flavor in your meat. I make sure to take the time to mix everything together really well, and then I add my jerk seasoning. This Walker's Wood brand is really the only brand that I recommend using. I've tried other brands, they're not as good. You can basically use either mild or spicy, whichever you prefer. Taking the time to really make sure that you mix everything in well during each of these steps is what's going to really make sure the flavor is amazing with each bite. Browning sauce is what I add next. This is basically what's going to give the wings their beautiful brown color. It's basically sugar and water and helps to really caramelize the wings. It's another staple that's very common in Caribbean cooking, and I basically learned to use it because of my husband. I again spend the time to really mix everything together well before I go ahead and add the vegetable oil next. This is the final step, and it's also important to do so that the wings can cook and crisp up nicely in the oven. Once I've mixed everything together sufficiently, I go ahead and push the wings aside and bring back my baking pan. I go ahead and lay out all the wings on the pan, making sure that they have enough space in between them. I end up actually having to do 2 batches because this is a good amount of wings that I'm making. I put the wings into an oven that's been preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll go ahead and basically be baking them for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, I take the wings out and I go ahead and actually flip them over. I take the time to individually make sure that each wing is flipped over. Once I'm done flipping them all, I go ahead and put them back into the oven to bake for an additional 20 to 30 minutes. I love it because it's really that easy to get delicious wings infused with flavor. I go ahead and finish the wings off with some sliced scallions, and it's that easy, you're done. These will be the most delicious wings that you taste, and best of all, they were easy to make. You can check out the description for the full written recipe. Thanks again for watching, and be sure to watch more of our cooking videos here on YouTube.